Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, an entitled Karen stole a veteran's wheelchair because she needs it more than him. The police came and tore her a new one. Here is what happened. Subscribe to Ripe on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. In my eyes, my father is the ideal of what a man should be. He raised my siblings and me to always have respect for other people, but to stand up for ourselves when it was needed. My father was a veteran that served in the Marines but became disabled and was confined to a wheelchair. This made going certain places a little bit more difficult as a family, but we learned to manage. I really feel like having him as a father makes me realize how lucky I am. He did not raise us exactly as military kids, and honestly only raised his voice if one of us did something so wrong that we could have ended up hurt. One thing that we love doing in the summer is going to our local pool where we are members. My father is big on swimming and he says he likes being able to do something, but his legs are just too weak and his knees too damaged to support his weight. In a pool where he can float though, nobody would ever be able to see that he had a disability. The pool has a thing with water and he will swim. Then the wheelchair gets put by the chairs with the other stuff and we do the same thing in reverse to get him out. Sounds like there wouldn't be any issues, but on one horrible day we came across a woman that I would only like to describe as Karen for the rest of this story. We did not even notice Karen at first, as I was having a great time in the pool with my brother and dad. It was not until I looked up and saw that my mom was fighting with somebody and that they were trying to steal my father's wheelchair. We swam over to the edge to get as close as possible. My brother jumped out to help my mom and I stayed with my dad because he does not like being left alone in the water. I could finally hear what the fighting was about, and Karen was yelling that her child needed the wheelchair because she was tired of walking. And they wanted to go play tennis. The pool we went to also offered tennis, and I'll admit it was a little bit of a walk away. But still, you cannot just steal a wheelchair. Karen was saying that since nobody was sitting in it, that she could use it and we could not hog the pool wheelchairs. The pool did not have wheelchairs, so I didn't know what she meant by that. In her mind, wheelchair was the same as a stroller and meant to wheel your children around. Me and my brother were fuming, but we did not join in on the yelling at her since Dad would not have approved. Mom was handling it and telling her that it belonged to my dad and to get her hands off of it. Karen was determined and instead of pulling the chair, pushed it to go into my mom, giving her a chance to run off with it. I jumped out of the pool and chased this woman with my brother while mom stayed with dad. Manners were about to go out of the window and we were going to get my dad his chair back. She was running while pushing her kid in the chair. I don't blame the kid because they looked about 3 or 4 years old and not understanding what was going on. We finally caught up to her and started reaming her out with every bad word that we could think of. We were so angry that somebody would do that to our dad and did not stop until a bunch of police officers showed up on the scene. Of course, Karen started crying that we were trying to take her poor daughter's wheelchair and we are a couple of thug kids. I was worried since from a stranger looking at us, they might have seen it like that. It turns out though that mom back at the pool was the one to call the police and officers, were there helping my dad out of the pool and onto a chair while he waited for his to be returned. Still, Karen did not know that because she was not listening and telling them that she rented the wheelchair from the pool because her daughter needed it to get around. Then we tried to steal it so we wouldn't have to pay for our own. She even told the police that me and my brother wanted it to smash into trees and destroy it because we hated disabled people. Meanwhile, we told the police how it was my father's wheelchair and that he needed it because he was a disabled veteran. The chair even had some stickers saying things like Marine and veteran. He was proud of what he did for the country. We all went back to the pool where the police could clearly see my father was actually disabled and the little girl had nothing visibly wrong with her and could walk fine. My dad got his chair back, but it didn't end there. Karen was about to be in a whole lot of trouble. The police first talked to staff and found out there was no such thing as pool wheelchairs and the mother had fully lied to the police. She seemed shocked to find out that lying to an officer to try and get away with a crime was against the law. That was not it though, because remember when she shoved the chair into my mom? Well, it caused my mom to fall down hard enough that she landed wrong and fractured her wrist. After finding out that Karen was lucky, she was in custody and not in the hands of me and my brother, who was RCMP and planning to ship out to basic in 6 months. Because of this, she was also arrested for assault and my mother was quick to press charges on Karen for that one. The scariest part of all was when my dad asked the officers if he could say something to Karen before they took her away. They agreed and my dad put on a voice that would always scare us because we knew it meant he was serious. He would not yell, he would have this calm voice that had rage behind it that could cause the hairs on the back of your neck to stand up. He told her that if she ever came near his wife again, he was going to make sure to show her that he still knew a few things from his days in the Marines. It actually made Karen stop talking for once as she quietly got taken away by the police. We have been back to that pool often and have never seen Karen there again. I like to think that she is so scared of my dad that she will never step foot inside of the gate again. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I am just baffled by the fact that this woman thought there were like wheelchairs for rent at a swimming pool. That simply doesn't make sense. Either way, if you like the stories about Karens getting what they deserve, then please don't forget to like the video. Anyway, let's continue now. And the next one is titled Snowy Revenge. I live in New York City and park my car on the street as most people do. I have a Mustang GT and we were supposed to get a blizzard. I parked my Mustang and in front is a driveway and behind is another car. We got like 15 to 18 inches of snow. I expected to have to dig my car out and front to be dug in from the driveway. The person who owns the driveway and the house decided to hire day laborers and remove every snowflake from not only the driveway, but his front and backyard and dumped it all on my car. It took me 90 minutes just to get to the door. As I was digging out, he comes out and laughs and says, "Yeah, I hired a few guys to remove snow and didn't think I would have a spot for it." I was so mad and ready to fight, but my friend decided he had a better idea. We rented a Bobcat skid steer loader and waited for the night. At around 11 PM, we went out, dug every car out on the block and took all the snow, dumped it in front of the driveway on city property and packed it. The snow hill must have been over 10 feet tall. Next morning, I was hanging out by my car waiting for him to exit and I replied with, "I didn't have any other place to dump the snow at." The hill was there from February until mid-June. Once it froze, it took forever to melt. He essentially was not able to drive out until it melted. Years later, I have not seen him do that to anyone else again. And by the way guys, I'm kind of surprised, how can this snow hill stay from February until mid-June? That must have been some really cold months. And the next one is titled Revenge par excellence. After 3 years with the same company, they hired my 7th department manager. She had no experience, but she had a degree, so obviously, sarcasm here, she is so smart. I was honestly not too concerned about her as I had a winning record and several major projects, and while she was technically my boss, she handled different types of things than I did and we handled two sides of the same coin and created a seemingly decent partnership. After about a year, she started coming at me all wrong. Her ego was presenting itself and I was not super thrilled about it. But I was very busy. I had 2 major projects slated for delivery by June 1st to the tune of $5 million worth of cost savings to be contributed to the bottom line. She only had projects lined up to add approximately $2 million. This queued up a new interest in, specifically, what was I doing? She wanted me to report out to her on a weekly basis and summarize what I had completed as well as what steps were left to be completed. Mind you, I had a regional project manager that I already met with bi-weekly for this specific report out discussion. She was not involved in the category that I worked, so she legitimately had no reason to need to know this info, but since she was my boss, she had the right. Now, I'm no dummy, she was though, so I sent her spreadsheets of lots of raw data, not the ones that I had sorted, filtered, added pivot tables to, added formulas or added VLOOKUPs to. She did not understand Excel very well. I had to teach her how to do simple stuff, but not any of the more complex formulas. I knew she did not know what she was looking at, but I also knew she would not admit that she didn't understand it. I also unlinked my account from the SkyDrive, no auto backups to the server. I had a hard drive that I backed up to that went to my purse every day. All I had left to do was pretty easy for me because I knew the operating system, but no one else knew the specifics about how to do it. There may have been someone else who would be able to manage the steps, but none of those people were in my loop. No one but me had enough specifics, apples to apples details to complete the project. So, as we get closer to the deadline, June 1st, she is ramping up her aggressive attitude and she is riding my butt every day, and I finally had enough. Obviously, she was baiting me and I did not care enough anymore to play her stupid game. So I told her to F off and I took my stuff and went home. She went to HR and technically I was fired, although I told her to F off. So yeah. Here is the petty part. Before the end of that day, she already took all of my raw data that I sent her and told my assistants to explain it to her. She sent it to someone for 3 different departments and begged everyone to explain it to her. I got calls from colleagues that were trying to help, not knowing of the full situation, and asked me about my projects and I told them all no. She threatened my assistant with her job if she couldn't help, and I didn't want my assistant to get into trouble, but I'm sorry, I cannot explain. So on May 5th, less than 30 days from the faucet to be turned on for a $5 million project, the project died. She had to explain to the executive suite that the project had been on track for a year, that had monthly updates for a year, with an experienced project manager that had completed every single project for 4 years, that had exceeded expected results every single time prior, and it dropped dead with $0 of $5 million profit to the bottom line. She left the company within 30 days and ultimately she played herself, and I still laugh every single time I think about it. And yeah guys, that is really revenge par excellence, and yeah, I am saying that in French. That is how good the revenge was. If you have ever gotten revenge on a business, feel free to share your story in the comments or on r/ripe stories on Reddit. The next one is titled, I destroyed my ex. I broke up with my ex about 3 years ago after a tumultuous relationship. He gaslit me, love-bombed me, slut-shamed and made me feel like I needed him to do daily tasks. He slowly started to take some of my freedoms away, like driving to work, and at first he insisted on driving me to work to save money, but then it became a thing where it was a way to control how I get to work and when to get off. He isolated me from my friends, made fun of my family and made me feel like I needed him. Anyways, I started jiu-jitsu around the time I met him and he was maybe a couple of years into it. I was excited to start and learn and would often try to show my ex some of the moves I learned because I figured it was a good way to bond. But instead, every move I showed him that I learned, he would counter it and go rough on me. I simply wanted to show him the move and not actually fight. When I signed up for a tournament, he refused to show up and support me, and he would often tell me that I'm not very good. It was another way for him to control me, so after that tournament I placed 4th, which sucked, and he basically had an I told you so attitude. After that, things went way downhill for me and I quit jiu-jitsu for a bit. I broke up with my ex and sulked in my depression. I did, however, get back into jiu-jitsu and started working harder than ever. I was eventually promoted to blue belt, I started to compete again and lost pretty much the first tournaments I did. Eventually I got better and started placing on the podium. This past weekend I competed and won all my matches and got gold. I saw my ex at the same tournament and I panicked a little, but it was fuel for me to fight and win. I noticed that he was still a white belt and when his match came up, I saw him instantly get choked out. I pointed him out to my teammate and we both had a laugh. It was a beautiful sight to see and my ex lost all his matches and placed dead last. It was one of the best weekends I have had, winning at something I was told I would suck at and seeing the person who told me this lose. And the next one is titled Awful Boss. So this is not my story. I had a coworker, CW, who left for another job because it was $7 more per hour. Totally understandable. So CW takes this amazing job and apparently within the first week she realizes that her a-hole boss is a complete drunk psychopath. He would come in daily with a case of beer or bottle of tequila or something else alcoholic. He also had a lot of pills, Adderall, Vicodin, any addictive drugs he had it. Boss tells CW that he makes over 10k daily, a literal golden goose. CW was hired to be manager in a warehouse that packaged kratom. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a tree from Southeast Asia. The leaves have alkaloids that affect the opioid receptors in your brain. It helps with pain and gives a person energy. It also helps mitigate the withdrawal symptoms from opioids. Within the first 2 weeks, CW was yelled at for helping her team package, screamed at in front of her team, made to feel stupid. CW was also sexually harassed by the boss. He would make comments about her body. "You think because you have a nice butt you can do whatever you want." CW often left work in tears, and about 2 weeks later, boss brings in his side piece or mistress and tells CW that the mistress is a manager as well, though mistress did not do anything other than play on her phone and sit on her butt, unless boss was around. I live in a state where cannabis is legal, medical and recreational. Apparently boss was using MJ shakes in place of kratom. He was also spraying the kratom with THC distillate. It's what is put into vapes, but selling it to smoke shops as CBD-infused kratom. He was not using ethanol or butane to extract it, which are safe for human consumption. AB was using isopropyl alcohol, which is toxic to humans. Also in my state, any MJ that is extracted with isopropyl alcohol will not pass the testing, since it is not made for human consumption. Here comes the petty revenge though. CW quits without notice, stops answering any calls from boss or mistress. When she told me how he was extracting the THC, I told her what he was doing was illegal and very detrimental for society. Every state has a board that monitors MJ, we will call them the board. I told CW she should contact the board and let them know what boss was doing. Number 1, he did not have a license for the MJ, which is required by any state with it legalized. He was also causing harm and possible death for anyone who used his products. In addition, he was a drunk sexually harassing psycho, and what he was doing was wrong. Labeling something with infused CBD when it is THC is just wrong. CW could report it anonymously. Anyway, about a week later, CW hears through the grapevine that the board showed up and boss was totally drunk with a bottle of tequila open in front of him. Pills were all over his desk and it was not a good day for the boss. End of the story, boss ended up having his business shut down, and the board are known for giving huge fines up to 1 million, possible jail time, court fees, lawyer fees, etc. I think the boss deserved it. And guys, if you enjoy the stories about people getting revenge on their bosses and in general on businesses, then please let me know in the comments and I might do some more of these. And the next one is titled Petty Fence Revenge. After a lot of condo living, I finally bought my first fixer-upper house. It is a nice big backyard and I have a dog, so I wanted to put a fence up so I could easily let the dog outside and not worry about her becoming a gator appetizer with the canal in back. I had a survey done, contracted a fence company to put in the fence, and then we decided on PVC privacy fence in the front with locking gates. And the sides are my neighbor's fences on either side and PVC chain link in the back. Here it is common for neighbors to share fence lines. The fence company put in the fence to code with privacy fence being 5 feet back from the front of my house. I went over to check on the fence project, and before I even get out of the car, my neighbor to the right, Karen, is banging on my car window. Karen is upset because the privacy fence now closes her off from a side gate in her fence next to her pool. I'm not living in the house yet as we are still doing renovations, and it did not even register that she had a side gate. Karen says she's going to call the city and complain. I am taken aback, but I wanted to be a good neighbor, so I arranged a meeting between myself, my general contractor, the fence contractor and Karen. Karen declines to attend the meeting and sends her husband Dick. Dick is adamant that they should still be able to use that side gate even after we explain to him my fence has been done correctly to code and it is a liability for me to have his pool and lawn guys crossing through my property to use that gate. I offer to split the cost of relocating his gate to the front of his house, but Dick refuses. He insists that I pay for his new gate and landscaping that would need to be done. I am trying to be nice, but I am not that nice. We just had our final fence inspection with the city which we passed, and the inspector noted their back fence is too close to the canal and took a bunch of pictures, so they may get in trouble for that. So today, in my act of petty revenge, I locked my side privacy gate and I'm going to plant some hedge plants in front to their side gate. Looking forward to seeing if the city makes them move their back fence. And the next one is titled, We Won, a Story of Hope After 6 Months of Hell. I am so relieved to say that today we won as defendants against a frivolous lawsuit by our neighbors against us. They moved in 2 years before us. They were aware when we moved in that they were unlawfully encroaching on our backyard. We spent months and countless emails, meetings, etc. to discuss correcting their unlawful encroachment. They would not agree to anything less than continuing their unlawful encroachment. A winter storm made the already dilapidated old fence encroachment a clear safety hazard. I got full permission from our local Department of Building and Safety and followed our official county corner record survey to the letter. I got permits even though not required to and got them finalized. The neighbors did everything they could to delay construction, calling the police every time I started, until the police told them to stop. They made multiple false reports to the Department of Building and Safety, which were all proven false. They threatened me with a firearm and made racist verbal assaults on our friends and family. They chased my dad with their car and stalked me throughout my days. They brought a criminal case against me from which I was exonerated. When that failed, they filed a small claims lawsuit for $10,000, citing lost wages and pain and suffering. We spent a month preparing for court, which was today. The neighbors escalated to stalking when they were served with our evidence packet. They arrived to small claims court today in full suits, her in 5-inch heels with a fake hot pink Birkin. They alleged that I defamed his good name by saying he hated LGBTQ people and caused damage to their property value by correcting their unlawful encroachment. They presented no evidence. The judge found in our favor. It all turned out okay. They were classic bullies, all intimidation and no follow-through. Fingers crossed that this is the end. We are going to move temporarily in hopes that they forget all about us or move themselves. Update: 5 months later, these ridiculous people finally moved away. I cannot tell you how happy I am that they are finally gone. Cheers. And yeah guys, I hope you enjoyed today's revenge stories. If you wanna see more, please don't forget to like the video and I see you again tomorrow.